Step 7, provide or provision. So let's look at this step, and there are 4 key areas that you need to be looking at. Service, follow-up, upsell and cross-sell. So let's look at those now in a little bit more detail. At this stage, when you're providing the service or you have just provided the service, this is the time when you can look for increased sales as quickly as possible. And what we're really looking at here is we're looking to the long-term value of a customer. Now, if you're selling a particular product, what can you sell again to keep that going? If you're selling a solution or a service, again, what can you do to add value to that particular proposition? How can you move somebody from a one-off sale to a recurring sale? And again, we can look at retainers as well. So when we look at that, the most important thing is when somebody receives the product or the service, that of course you're providing the highest standard. So the best product, the best service that you can provide. And those are really, of course, those are important. But what also is important is the follow-up. Don't be scared to follow up, and you can follow up through technology, through phones, through conversations, whatever you want to do. Make sure you follow up that everything was fine. Don't be scared to ask, was everything okay? Because actually feedback is good. So if somebody says, well, could have changed this, take that on board, because that's of value as well. But most of all, make sure you follow up. And when you're following up from the provision of the service, what's really important when you do that particular follow-up is that you then look, what can you do again? Did you enjoy the product? Yes, I did. And then you can start to say, what could we do to the product to make it better? What other service do you think would be able to help you? Start to ask those kind of questions. And you can ask those questions even in a very simple B2C e-commerce perspective by using automation, emails going out, regular contact with customers. I also talk a lot about upsell, and I also talk about cross-sell as well, because these are really important at this stage. You've provided something, somebody's really happy with it, and that's the time when they're going to buy again. They're going to refer you. There's all sorts of things going to happen at the stage. Now you might say, well, I have a product or a service that people use once. And I go, okay, that's great, but you never know. You actually might be able to look at a cross-sell opportunity with a similar marketplace. And I love to do this with, say, home improvements. With home improvements, if somebody is putting a roof on or somebody's putting a conservatory on, they might go, well, that conservatory is going to last for 10 years. That's great, but can you look for the cross-sell opportunity? Can you do a promotion where you get a share of the payment for, say, a window company, a carpet company, a painting and interior design company, a lighting company? Who can you do things where you have a client base and you can say, I have a great partnership working with this company, and reduce other things to them, so you can introduce those other things and you're going to get a payment or a commission outside of that. And I think that's where a lot of people say, well, we just do this one thing once. You might, but you've got a client base who trust you. What else can you do in terms of sales, particularly in terms of that cross-sell? And when you look at upsell as well, you might have sold your product. Now, when you've sold the product, is there an upsell that you can do after 2 or 3 months? Our customers found that they used this, but they also found by adding this to it, it made another difference. So you can look at those upsells. And actually you might say, well, you haven't got a product. Well, why don't you start to look at a product or a service that can do with the upsell? Now, a great example of that is that you could look in, say, a solution business. You can provide the solution, but there might be add-ons that you can put on, and that would be part of that upsell opportunity that is there. So I always stress, when you're in the provision of the service mode, that's the time when you should be selling even more to that customer. If they've enjoyed the experience, do they know someone else that could enjoy it? So again, you can look for a referral from that. But it's so important to capitalize on what you're doing. Don't be focused on a single niche market all of the time, when you can sell in other things. That means that you can increase the revenue and the lifetime value of that particular customer. And lifetime value is so important. Is to think about, how long can I hold a customer for in that journey with me? What can we sell them? What's the right thing to sell them? How can we keep increasing that revenue each and every single time? So when you look at your goods, products, services, look at your offering, look what you do. Can you obviously provide the very best service? Do you follow-up? Can you look to upsell? And also, can you look to cross-sell? The cross-sell is one of the most untapped areas for any company to actually be able to introduce another product or service from you in partnership with somebody else, where you get paid a commission, a royalty, whatever you want to call it. You get additional revenue. So many people miss out on this, so you really need to start to look at who can you work with in terms of that cross-sell, but also upsell. What else can you offer? Particularly if you're a service-based business or you're a solution-based business and you're about you or your company or product, how can you flex? What else can you put in there? What other thing can you add to it? So again, if you look at a lot of coaches, can you add more workshops? Can you add more ebooks? What can you add to go into this to make that whole thing in terms of getting more and more revenue? Come to the end of the 7 steps now. I really, really hope you've enjoyed this. This is just a snapshot. This is to give you an idea of the skeleton, to give you an idea of the full program that I run. And when I run this with one-to-ones or I run this for companies, I'm absolutely taking every single step apart, and there's so much more under the bonnet. So I'm going to be sharing lots of that content with you, and you can find lots of the free courses online. And if you want to reach out and you want to work with me, and I can't work with everyone, but if you do, reach out to me. Let's have a conversation. Won't cost you anything for a conversation. Let's share some of my knowledge, see if it makes a difference, and then let's go on a journey together.